The ballroom was drowning in golden light, chandeliers glittering above the city's most powerful. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter rippled through the air. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. The night Alexander Grant, the untouchable CEO of Grant Global, announced his next empire-defining venture. But power, like glass, shatters without warning. Mr. Grant. A young executive's voice trembled as Alexander faltered mid-speech. His words slurred, his hand clutched his chest. For one breathless moment, the entire room froze. Then the unthinkable happened. The man everyone feared, admired, and envied crumpled to the marble floor. "Call an ambulance," someone screamed. Chaos erupted. Guests scattered, heels clicking frantically. Phones lit up, voices cracked. His loyal assistant fell to her knees beside him, shaking him, shouting his name. Security pushed through the crowd. But Alexander lay still. Doctors rushed in within minutes, summoned from the private clinic attached to the tower. Expensive machines were wheeled into the ballroom as if the party itself had transformed into an operating theater. Cardiac arrest. "We're losing him." No pulse again. Clear. The defibrillator crackled. His body jolted. Gasps filled the hall. But still, no heartbeat. Again. Clear. Nothing. The cold finality spread like wildfire. Executives exchanged stunned looks. Investors slipped quietly out the doors, unwilling to be part of the downfall. His so-called friends whispered, already calculating the collapse of his empire. The man who had crushed rivals, who built skyscrapers with his name etched in glass, was slipping into the one fate he couldn't buy his way out of: death. And then, from outside the massive glass doors of the ballroom, a girl pressed her hands against the rain-slick window. Barefoot. Soaked. Forgotten. She had been standing there for hours, ignored by every guest. Astray on the edges of their world. Her name was Emma. Her eyes widened as she watched the powerful CEO's chest fall still. Her voice cracked through the storm. "Don't let him die." No one heard her. No one cared. But Eleanor Grant, Alexander's grandmother, regal even in grief, caught sight of the figure outside. Their gazes locked through the glass, and for a reason she couldn't explain, hope flickered. She gestured wildly. "Open the doors." Security hesitated. "She's just a beggar, madam." "Open them." Eleanor's command cut sharper than steel. The doors swung wide, rain lashing in with the girl. Emma stumbled forward, clutching her thin jacket around her shivering frame. Her eyes never left the man on the floor. The doctors barked, "Stay back." But Emma's voice shook with urgency. "His blood type, it's rare, isn't it? AB negative." The chief doctor froze. "How do you know that?" "Because it's mine too." The room went dead silent. The rain beat harder against the windows as if the world itself held its breath. "You need fresh blood, don't you?" Her voice cracked, but her gaze burned steady. "Take mine. Please. Don't let him die." Eleanor's trembling hand clutched the doctor's sleeve. "Do it." "This is insane," one of the executives whispered. "She's filthy. She's." But the doctors had no choice. Their machines screamed flatlines. They had seconds left. Emma was dragged into a chair, her arms swabbed hastily. Needles slid in. Blood flowed. The CEO's lifeless form lay inches from her. Emma stared at his pale face, her chest tightening. Why did she feel as if she knew him, as if saving him meant saving herself? The transfusion began. One beat. Then another. "Pulse returning," the doctor shouted. The room erupted. Gasps, sobs, disbelief. Eleanor's tears spilled freely as she whispered, "He's back." On the floor, Alexander's chest rose with a shuddering gasp. His eyes fluttered open, icy gray, storm-tossed, confused. And the first thing he saw was her. Emma, pale from blood loss, swaying in the chair, her lips curved in a faint, exhausted smile. "You're alive." His voice was barely a rasp, but she heard it, felt it. The world's coldest CEO, breathing because of her. And just before darkness claimed her, she whispered back, "Don't make me regret it." Her body went limp, collapsing forward as the monitors blared once more. Not his this time, but hers. The chapter ended with Eleanor's scream cutting through the storm. "Don't let the girl die." The first thing Emma felt was softness. Too soft. A mattress that swallowed her like a cloud, silk sheets brushing her skin. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. She hadn't slept in a real bed for years. Then the sterile scent of medicine hit her nose. Her eyes flew open. Gold-plated sconces lined the walls. A chandelier glowed above. The room was vast, drowning in wealth, cream curtains, velvet armchairs, polished marble floors. A private hospital suite disguised as a palace bedroom. Emma sat up too quickly. Her head spun. Her arm ached where the four-needle was taped. Panic surged. "Where am I?" A shadow moved near the window. Finally awake. The voice was deep, gravel-edged, commanding. Her gaze darted and collided with his. Alexander Grant. Alive. He stood in a tailored black suit despite his recent collapse, his presence dominating the room. His gray eyes studied her as though she were a puzzle he hated but couldn't ignore. Emma's lips parted. "You." He crossed the room slowly, each step deliberate, controlled. Like a predator approaching its prey. "You gave me your blood." His tone was flat, unreadable. Emma gripped the sheets. "They said you were dying. I couldn't watch you." "You couldn't watch me die?" A bitter half-smile tugged at his lips. "Or you couldn't resist the chance to tie your fate to mine?" Her breath caught. "What are you?" He leaned closer, his shadow falling over her. "Do you think I don't know how people operate? Everyone wants something. Money. Power. A way into this house." His voice dropped lower. "So tell me, Emma, what do you want?" Her pulse hammered. For a moment, fear flared, but then fire sparked in her chest. She raised her chin. "I didn't do it for money. I didn't even know who you were until I saw people panicking. You think the world revolves around you, but not everything does." The silence stretched. For the first time in his life, Alexander Grant, cold, calculating, untouchable, was left without a response. The door burst open. His grandmother, Eleanor, swept in with the force of a storm, flanked by a physician. Relief lit her face when she saw Emma awake. "My dear girl." Eleanor rushed to her side, taking Emma's hand. "You saved him. You saved my Alexander." Her voice trembled with gratitude. Emma blinked at the warmth. No one had called her dear in years. But Alexander's jaw tightened. "Grandmother, she doesn't belong here." Eleanor's head snapped toward him. "If not for her, you would be in a grave. Show some respect." The physician checked Emma's vitals, murmuring about rest and recovery. But Emma felt the CEO's eyes burning into her, colder than the four-drip at her arm. When the others finally left, the air thickened between them again. Alexander spoke first, his tone like ice. "You'll be compensated. Handsomely. Then you'll leave." Emma's throat tightened. She forced herself to meet his gaze. "I don't want your money." His brows shot up, just slightly but enough. "Then what do you want?" The answer came before she could stop it. Quiet. Fierce. "I want my life to mean something." For a heartbeat, his mask cracked. Something flickered in those storm-gray eyes, something raw, almost human. But then it was gone, shuttered behind steel. "Careful what you wish for," he said, turning toward the door. "Meaning comes with chains." And then he was gone, leaving her trembling in the echo of his words. Emma lay back, staring at the chandelier, her heart pounding. She had stepped into his world by accident, a world that wanted to spit her out. But fate had already tied their lives together in blood. And in the shadows of that golden room, Emma felt the first spark of a storm neither of them could escape. Fire Chapter 2 Purpose and Themes. Theme: Suspicion and mistrust versus gratitude. Emotional focus: the clash between Emma's purity and Alexander's cold suspicion. Purpose: establish their first private confrontation, show emotional sparks, highlight class divide. Cliffhanger beat: Emma realizes she's now bound to his world, whether she wants it or not. The mansion's halls were too quiet, too polished. Emma's bare feet sank into Persian carpets that probably cost more than her entire life. The silence pressed against her ears, broken only by the faint tick of a grandfather clock. She didn't belong here. She knew it. And so did everyone else. Move aside. A maid brushed past her with a tray of crystal glasses, eyes narrowing in disdain. Whispers followed Emma wherever she walked, the beggar girl who saved him. She could almost hear their sneers. Charity case, intruder, opportunist. Eleanor was the only shield. She insisted Emma stay in the mansion until her health returned, brushing off objections with aristocratic steel. But Eleanor's influence didn't extend to the cold gray eyes that haunted Emma at every corner. Alexander. He watched her like a hawk, sometimes openly, sometimes from the edges of a room. She'd catch his gaze, and for a heartbeat, something raw flickered there. Then he'd turn away, mask snapping back into place. Tonight, that mask cracked. Emma wandered onto the balcony, drawn by the city lights blazing below like fallen stars. For a moment, the view stole her breath. The skyline was his kingdom, skyscrapers branded with his name, towers piercing the clouds. "You're trespassing." His voice cut through the night. She spun, finding him leaning against the balcony's stone column, a glass of whiskey in hand. The city lights carved sharp planes across his face, making him look both regal and untouchable. Emma's heart skipped, but she steadied her voice. "I didn't know this balcony belonged to you. Everything here belongs to me." His eyes glinted over the rim of his glass. "Except you. You're the one thing I can't seem to place." Her pulse jumped. She folded her arms. "Then stop trying." He chuckled darkly. "That's not how I work." For a long moment, silence stretched. The hum of traffic below filled the void. Then he said quietly, "When I was on that floor, when everything went black, the last thing I felt was the weight of failure. I thought it was the end." His gaze slid to her. "And then I woke up to you." Emma's breath caught. He'd never admitted weakness before. Not to her. Not to anyone.
She softened.
"I didn't think. I just couldn't let you go." He set the glass down with a sharp click. "That's what I don't understand."
"Why?"
"Why would someone with nothing risk herself for someone like me?" Her throat tightened. Memories clawed their way back, of her brother's hand slipping from hers in a hospital bed because they couldn't afford the treatment, of being powerless, unseen. "Because I know what it's like to watch someone die when you could have saved them," she whispered. "I couldn't live with it again." His eyes darkened, stormy, searching her face as if peeling back every layer. The tension thickened, charged, alive. She felt it in the air, in the thrum of her pulse, in the way he took a step closer. But then, "Sir." The butler's voice shattered the moment, stiff with disapproval. "The board members have arrived for tomorrow's early meeting. Shall I prepare the East Wing?" Alexander's jaw tightened. His mask snapped back in place. "Do it." The butler's gaze flicked to Emma, brimming with unspoken scorn, before he left. Alexander looked back at her, something unreadable flashing in his eyes. "Stay away from the East Wing tomorrow. My world isn't one you want to see." And with that, he turned, vanishing into the golden-lit corridor. Emma gripped the balcony rail, breath trembling. She didn't know if she was more shaken by his warning, or by the truth she saw buried in his eyes. Not hate, not suspicion. Something far more dangerous. Fire Chapter 3 Purpose and Themes. Theme: growing attraction laced with mistrust. Emotional focus: first vulnerable exchange between them. Purpose: build romantic tension, deepen Emma's backstory, show Alexander's internal conflict. Cliffhanger beat: Emma realizes he feels something for her, even if he denies it. The rain hammered against the glass windows of the CEO's penthouse, a rhythm that seemed to echo the chaos unraveling inside the man who once commanded empires. Adrian Stone, the untouchable, ruthless mogul, now sat slumped in a leather chair, staring at his own trembling hand. He hated it, the weakness, the reminder that just weeks ago, his heart had flatlined while the world stood powerless. That his billions, his doctors, his influence, none of it mattered. Only her blood had dragged him back from death's edge. And now she was in his world. "Eat something," Mira said softly, her voice breaking the suffocating silence. She stood at the edge of the vast living room, holding a tray with soup and bread. The steam rose like a fragile offering in the cold space. Adrian's eyes flicked toward her, sharp, unreadable. He wanted to snap, to remind her this wasn't her place. But instead, the words caught in his throat. She looked fragile herself. Too small for this penthouse built for power games, too raw for marble floors and crystal chandeliers. And yet, there was a strength in her that unsettled him. "I don't need your pity," he finally rasped. Mira lifted her chin, surprising him. "It's not pity. You almost died. You need strength. This is just food, Adrian. Nothing more." The way she said his name, without fear, without reverence, made something stir in his chest. No one dared speak to him like that. Not board members, not business rivals, not even family. Only her. He looked away, jaw tight. "You're not supposed to be here. You should have taken the money and disappeared." Her fingers tightened on the tray, but she didn't back down. "And let you die again?"
No.
"I don't want your money." The defiance in her eyes burned brighter than the city lights below. For a moment, Adrian couldn't breathe. He hated meeting anyone. And yet, every cell in his body remembered the warmth of her blood merging with his, pulling him back from the abyss. It terrified him. Later that night, Mira wandered into the penthouse balcony, hugging her thin sweater around her shoulders. The city stretched endlessly below, towers of glass, rivers of headlights. She had slept on sidewalks beneath those very lights, invisible to the world. And now, here she was, standing in the empire of the man she had unknowingly saved. She didn't belong. "Mira." His voice cut through the rain. She turned. Adrian stood in the doorway, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his presence commanding even in vulnerability. His eyes searched her face, softer now, almost lost. "Why did you do it?" His question was a low growl, almost broken. "Why give your blood to me? You don't know me. You owe me nothing." Mira swallowed hard. Memories flashed. Her little brother, coughing in the winter cold before he died because no one had stopped to help. The cruel indifference of the world. "Because everyone else stood back," she whispered. "And I know what it feels like to be left to die." The words hit him like a blade. For the first time in years, Adrian felt his armor cracking. He wanted to demand answers, to close the distance between them, to grab her shoulders but he didn't. He couldn't. Because he feared the pull she had on him more than death itself. "You're reckless," he muttered, trying to mask the storm inside. "People like you give until there's nothing left." Myra's lips curved into a sad smile. "And people like you build walls so high you forget what it's like to feel anything at all." The silence stretched, charged, almost unbearable. The CEO and the homeless girl, worlds apart, yet colliding in ways neither understood. Just as Adrian was about to speak, his phone rang. A sharp, shrill tone that shattered the moment. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened instantly.
"The board."
"The vultures circling already." He answered, voice cold and clipped. But Mira watched the tension in his posture, the slight wince he thought no one noticed. His body was still recovering. "Adrian, the investors are restless," came a voice over speaker. "Rumors of your condition are spreading. If you don't show your face soon, Stone Enterprises will bleed." His jaw clenched. "I'll be back at the office in 2 days." 2 days. The laughter on the other end was sharp, mocking. "You can't even stand without." Adrian ended the call, his hand trembling with fury. Mira stepped closer, her voice steady. "You're not ready. They'll tear you apart." His gaze snapped to hers, fierce. "Then let them try. No one takes what's mine." But behind the steel in his tone, Mira saw it, the flicker of exhaustion, of pain. He wasn't invincible anymore, and that terrified him most of all. The night ended with silence again, but not the cold, empty kind. This silence carried weight, unspoken truths, unacknowledged fears, an invisible thread pulling them closer. Mira lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. She didn't know why she stayed. He had saved nothing of hers, had offered only distance and disdain. And yet, beneath the cruelty, she had seen the man who almost broke. The man who, against all odds, had been saved by her. She closed her eyes, not realizing that across the penthouse, Adrian was awake too, sitting by the window, watching the rain, thinking of her words. Walls so high you forget what it's like to feel anything at all. For the first time in years, he wondered if he wanted those walls to fall. Cliffhanger ending. Just before dawn, a shadow moved across the penthouse security feed. A figure in a black coat, slipping past the gates. Watching. Waiting. Someone knew Adrian Stone wasn't as untouchable as he once was. And this time, they weren't coming to save him. The shrill beep of the security alarm sliced through the silence of the penthouse at 3 a.m. Adrian was on his feet instantly, pain shooting through his still-healing chest, but he ignored it. His instincts had been sharpened by years of betrayal, by clawing his way to the top, where enemies lurked in every shadow. This wasn't the malfunction. Someone was here. Mira. His voice was sharp, commanding. She rushed into the hall, barefoot, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. "What's happening?" "Stay behind me." His tone left no room for argument. But Mira didn't obey. She stepped to his side instead, eyes wide but steady, as the two of them crept toward the glass-walled living room. The city glowed beyond, but inside, the reflection of a figure in black lingered, moving like a shadow across Adrian's empire. His chest tightened. This was no ordinary trespasser. Whoever it was had bypassed the building's security and reached his private floor. That meant money, power, or both were behind this. He reached for the drawer under the marble console, pulling out a small black pistol. His hand trembled slightly, betraying the weakness he tried to hide. Myra's breath caught. "You're injured. You can't." "I don't get to be weak," he growled. For a moment, she saw past the armor. The fragility of a man terrified not of dying, but of being powerless. The intruder moved closer, footsteps soundless against the floor. Then, crash. A vase shattered, the sound echoing like thunder. Adrian raised the weapon, but Myra's hand shot out, touching his arm. "Don't," she whispered. "They want you angry. They want you reckless." Her words cut through the haze of adrenaline. Slowly, Adrian lowered the gun, though every muscle in his body screamed to act. "Show yourself." His voice boomed, the authority of a CEO filling the room like a commandment. The figure froze, then retreated toward the balcony. A moment later, the sliding door opened, and the shadow was gone, swallowed by the night rain. Silence returned, but it wasn't relief. It was a warning. Adrian shut the door, locking it tight. His breathing was ragged, his hand gripping the frame as if the building itself were about to collapse. Mira touched his arm gently. "You're shaking," she said softly. His eyes snapped to hers, dark and burning. "Don't mistake this for weakness. Whoever that was, they won't get a second chance." But Mira didn't step back. She held his gaze unflinching. Strength isn't about pretending you can't bleed. It's about knowing when to let someone stand with you. Her words pierced him more than any blade could. He wanted to push her away, to remind her she was nothing but a stranger who stumbled into his life. And yet, her voice steadied something inside him that he hadn't realized was breaking. By dawn, Adrian was in his office, staring at files spread across a mahogany desk. His empire was crumbling faster than he admitted aloud. Investors doubted him. Rivals circled. And now enemies were literally at his door. Mira walked in quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. The scent filled the cold room like a lifeline. "You should be resting," she said, setting 1 mug beside him. "I don't rest," he muttered. "Resting is how you lose." "Maybe that's why you almost died," she countered. The words hit him like a slap, but instead of anger, a bitter laugh escaped his lips. "You think you saved me? That blood transfusion was biology, nothing more. Don't turn it into something it wasn't." But his voice wavered. Mira leaned closer, her eyes sharp, unyielding. Then why are you still looking at me like I'm the only one who can stop you from falling apart? The air between them charged, electric. Adrian's jaw clenched, his body taut as though fighting an invisible war. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to crush the thought before it grew roots. But Myra's words had already broken through. Before either of them could speak, Adrian's phone buzzed. A new email. He scanned it quickly. Then his face went pale. Myra's stomach twisted. What is it? He looked at her, his eyes darker than she'd ever seen them. The board is calling for an emergency vote. They want me out. They think I'm unfit to lead. Myra's chest tightened. For a man like Adrian, power wasn't just money. It was identity, survival, oxygen. To strip it away was to kill him all over again. He dropped the phone on the desk, his voice breaking for the first time. I came back from death, Mira. And now they're trying to bury me alive. Myra's hand hovered over his, uncertain, trembling. Then she made a choice. She placed her palm firmly on his. Then fight, she whispered. Not alone. Not this time. For the first time since she'd met him, Adrian Stone didn't pull away. Cliffhanger ending. Unbeknownst to them both, across the city in a glass tower, a rival CEO watched the penthouse security feed on his laptop. The intruder's escape had been deliberate, recorded, designed to rattle Adrian's empire from the inside. And the rival's lips curled into a smile. Let's see what happens when the great Adrian Stone clings to a girl who doesn't belong in his world. The boardroom doors slammed open with a force that made the glass tremble. Every head turned. Adrian Stone entered like a man who had risen from his own grave. He wore a dark suit, sharp as a blade, but his pallor and faint tremor betrayed the truth. The CEO was not yet healed. At his side, Mira walked barefoot in borrowed heels, her chin high, her eyes blazing with defiance. She did not belong in that marble-lined chamber of power, yet she walked as if she owned it. The murmurs started immediately. Who is she? A distraction. Pathetic, he's finished. The chairman of the board, a silver-haired man with a vulture's smile, leaned back in his leather chair. Adrian, he drawled, you look unwell. Perhaps it's time to let stronger hands guide the company. Adrian's jaw clenched, but his voice cut like steel. The last time I was in this room, I was declared dead. And yet, here I stand. A ripple of unease spread across the table. Myra's heart hammered. She wanted to grab his hand, to anchor him, but she knew he needed to stand alone, at least for now. The chairman smirked. You're reckless.
Weak.
You've dragged this empire into scandal, and now you parade this girl? His eyes flicked to Mira with disdain. Is this what's left of Adrian Stone's legacy? Something inside Mira snapped. Before Adrian could speak, she stepped forward, voice clear as a bell. Don't you dare dismiss me, she said. I bled to keep him alive when all of you stood by, waiting for him to die. While you sharpened your knives, I gave him a chance to fight. The room went silent. Adrian's gaze locked on her, a storm of emotion in his eyes, shock, admiration, and something far deeper. The chairman recovered, scoffing. Touching. But boardrooms run on numbers, not fairy tales. Adrian, your time is over. He raised his hand, signaling the vote. One by one, hands lifted, cold, efficient betrayals. Adrian's empire collapsing in slow motion. Myra's pulse roared in her ears. She couldn't let it end like this. Not after everything. She grabbed Adrian's phone from the table, unlocking it with his trembling fingerprint before he could stop her. What are you doing? He hissed. Saving you the way you won't let yourself. With a swipe, she cast the screen to the massive monitor on the wall. Security footage filled the room. The shadowed intruder breaking into Adrian's penthouse, the rival's scheme laid bare. Gasps erupted. The chairman's face drained of color. This is irrelevant. No. Adrian cut him off, his voice rising with a power that silenced the room. This is proof. Proof that while I fought for my life, vultures like you tried to bury me alive. This company doesn't need stronger hands. It needs loyal ones. His words hung in the air like a verdict. For the first time, Mira saw the man the world feared, the CEO who built empires from nothing, who turned weakness into a weapon. But this time, his strength wasn't cold ambition. It was fire lit by her presence. Slowly, a few hands lowered. Then more. The tide turned. The chairman's smirk vanished, replaced with panic. The final count was announced. Adrian Stone remained CEO. The meeting dissolved in chaos. The chairman stormed out, spitting threats. Board members muttered apologies. Adrian didn't move. He stood frozen, staring at Mira as though she were the only person in the room. "You shouldn't have done that," he said hoarsely. She flinched. I thought." And then, to her shock, he reached for her, his hand cupping her face with a tenderness she hadn't thought him capable of. "You shouldn't have," he whispered, his forehead resting against hers, "because I don't know how to let you go now." Her breath hitched. The world outside, the glass towers, the whispers of power, faded until there was only the two of them, bound by blood, by survival, by something neither had expected to find. For a heartbeat, it felt like victory. But as they left the boardroom together, Adrian's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, and his face turned to stone. A message, no name, just words. "She's saved you once. Next time, she won't be there." Mira saw the shadow cross his face. Fear twisted in her chest. Their fight was not over. It had only begun.